Hi guys, I'm Jessica.
Hi, I'm Nadine. I'm Erin.
Today we're going to be talking to you about the psychology of character design and the writing of games. I'm the one that's going to be talking to you about some visual cues.
Hi, I'm going to be talking more about the psychological aspects of the games. And I'm going to be talking about characters from a literary standpoint.
Hooray! I'm going to start you guys off with the visual cues of character design. What I'm going to be talking about is the psychology of color, shapes, and the idea that the beautiful are good, or what's also known as the halo effect. So let's start with color. Color plays a huge role in character design. It's the first thing you see in most cases, and it's what really allows you to make your first snap judgment of a character as to whether they're good or evil. Looking at some of our favorite games, sorry you're not evil, we can see pretty clearly that a lot of thought and research went into just the colors of their outfits and their character designs. I looked up a list of colors and what they mean from a psychological and design standpoint, and this list came from digitalscratch.com. We're going to start with red. Red is a very strong color. It is a noticeable color that is often used on caution and warning signs. It's often associated with stop or beware. It's also a good color to use for accents that need to take notice over other colors. Stop and or beware.
Beware.
However, it's also important to note that red is also often associated with flags, country flags, as a statement of pride and strength. A great example of this color is on probably the most famous character in the gaming world, Mario. His red hat and shirt tell the player right away that they're dealing with someone special, someone who may or may not be able to actually take down a boss monster in the end. This red is offset by a pair of blue overalls, which we'll get into later. Orange is the next color. It's a combination of red and yellow. It's a bright, warm color. It represents fire, the sun, and warmth. It's considered a fun, light color that has appetizing qualities to it. It's also highly accepted amongst young people. Take, for example, the Orange Box, which contained 3 games, all of which became extremely popular after the release of the collective set. Were people buying it because of the bright, eye-catching color? Maybe. It certainly probably helped. Also consider Ralph from Wreck-It Ralph, which arguably is actually a movie, but it's a movie about video games. Anyway, he's supposed to be villainous, but he just wants to be the good guy and be loved and accepted, and his bright orange shirt and warm, earth-toned overalls make him look warm and inviting. And you know what? Kids really did love him.
Also just mean.
Yellow is the brightest color to the human eye. It represents youth, fun, happiness, sunshine, and other light, playful feelings. It's a cheerful, energetic color, just like our friend Nadine. Also think of Pikachu, the icon of the Pokemon franchise. The Pokemon games are marketed as all ages, and it's hard to find a kid as young as even elementary school who doesn't recognize the cute smiling face of Pikachu. An older example is Pac-Man. Pac-Man has literally 2 character traits, round and yellow, both of which tell the player immediately that this little pizza-looking thing is supposed to be viewed as a good guy. Green is the color of nature and health. It represents growth, money, fertility, and safety. Green is a relaxing color that's easy on the eye and has a healing power to it. Link is my favorite example for this. I mean, seriously, look at this guy. He comes from the forest, he's wearing green clothing, he's got light yellow, friendly blonde hair, and he wields a blue and silver sword. Again, we're getting to blue. I'm not there yet. It's next, I promise. Everything about this guy might not scream power and competence, but, you know, by golly, just by looking at him, you know that he's gonna try his best for you if he can. In the actual Zelda games, Link is given almost no backstory or time to consider what is going on around him. In Ocarina of Time, he's literally just woken up one day and told that he's the hero, and he accepts it. He doesn't fight it or question it. He knows what's right and he goes for it, even though he's like 10. Also, there's Luigi. I wasn't going to talk about Luigi, but how can you talk about Green and not mention him at least? He doesn't appear to be the most competent, however, his rounded form and green palette also gives you this feeling that even though he may not also give you the feeling of someone powerful, he looks like someone you can trust to get the job done. Blue's next. Finally. I know, I keep mentioning blue. It's a calm, cooling color that shows creativity and intelligence. It's a color of loyalty, strength, wisdom, and trust. Blue has a calming effect on the psyche. So before, I had mentioned that Mario's overalls, which are a really important part of his design, despite people usually associating him with his red hat, are blue. His overalls actually take up a huge part of his color palette, and it tells the player that this guy isn't just some kind of steamroller, he's a thinker, he's loyal, and he's trustworthy. In another example, the blue in the Master Sword is a sign of ancient wisdom and strength, and this little bit of color actually adds a lot to the overall design for Link as a hero. Let's not forget Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man. Both characters in their respective games are smart, loyal, strong, and trustworthy. Next, I'm going to talk about purple and white in the same thing because my example for them is one person. Purple combines the stability of blue and the energy of red. Throughout history, purple has been associated with royalty, nobility, prestige. It symbolizes mystery, magic, power, and luxury, and it's often used to portray rich, powerful kings, leaders, wizards, and magicians. White is often associated with being pure, clean, fresh, and good. Princess Zelda is a great example for both of these colors. Her dress is purple, white, and gold. She's not only noble, but also magical, pure, and good. She's also got accents of blue gems because, get this, she represents the Triforce of Wisdom. Great character design. Black is the last one. It's often a color used to portray something evil, depressing, scary, or even death in Western civilization. In general, think of so many villains in so many games. The villains in Shovel Knight, as an example, the Enchantress and the enemy who is literally just called the Black Knight. So that's all the colors. I know, it's a super long list, but they're really important. Next is the shapes of characters. There's two basic shapes when it comes to good versus evil in character design. You have the circle, and you have the triangle. Not that you're evil, again.
I'm just a bad guy.
These two shapes even go back to nature. They go back to nature and are integrated psychologically in the way that we see characters. The circle is indicative of something good. It's peaceful, harmonious, and soft, and it tends to feel safe. Triangles, on the other hand, are angular, sharp, rigid, and it feels a lot more aggressive. Now, there's also kind of a third in-between shape, and that's the rectangle. The rectangle is a sturdy, structured shape. It gives a feeling of trustworthiness, power, and stability. In nature, you can think about the differences between a marble, jagged cliffs or rocks like those when you're looking down into the ocean and it's terrifying, or the smooth face of a cliff. In games, however, let's talk about how this relates. Here's some examples of some common, well-known heroes who follow the circle pattern. You have Mario and Luigi, very rounded shapes. Shovel Knight, who, even though he's got horns, they're rounded horns and his pauldrons are round. Kirby, Pac-Man, Toon Link, Mega Man, and Dr. Light. Also, literally everything in Animal Crossing. Some examples of the villains, some of which may need a little bit of explaining, are Ganondorf, whose armor is hard and angular. King Dedede, who, despite being in a Kirby game which is round and cute, his belt is literally just made of triangles. You also have Dr. Wily, the Black Knight and the Enchantress, and Starman from Earthbound. The circle and triangle traits tend to be more present in games with a more cartoony art design. Once the art starts to get a little more realistic, it's a little bit harder to see these shapes, and another aspect of character design comes into play. This aspect is the beautiful are good, or the halo effect. People are attracted to beautiful things and wary of unattractive things. It's human nature. While this too can be applied to the more cartoony styles, for example the difference between Mario and Luigi or Wario and Waluigi, it shines in games where the characters are more human in appearance. Dragon Age is a great example of this. We can look at the differences between Liliana and Corpheus. Liliana is a young, attractive female who's a bard and helps you out a lot in the game, whereas Corpheus, on the other hand, is a huge bad guy in the game, and you can see that his design really depicts that. He's a distorted human figure with what looks like flesh ripping away and scars covering his face and body.
Gross.
It's disgusting. The second example is in the Borderlands franchise. I like this example because the villain's name is Handsome Jack. And at first glance, he appears to be someone who's just a good-looking, maybe a little shady at first, kind of businessman type character. However, upon closer examination, you see that his face is actually a false face. He's wearing a mask. His real face is deformed and branded with a vault symbol, and his left eye is blind. On the other hand, look at the player characters. They're pretty good looking for what are basically bandits. Look at these examples of them. You have Maya the Siren and Axton the Commando. Good looking people. Alright, that's pretty much it for the visual aspects. However, there's a lot of psychological underlying things that you're gonna learn from Nadine now.
Yes, it's time to get psychological.
Oh, yes.
Yay. Like Jess was saying though, I mean, a lot of psychological things in games just come from how people interpret characters just by looking at them straight off the bat, because a lot of things in games are mostly used to get past language barriers and be able to show certain types of characters, despite like differences in culture or anything. So many great games are from Japan, but I, as an American, feel like I can typically get most of what they're trying to get at, despite not growing up in Japan or being surrounded by their culture, because so many of the things are just associated across different cultures. Despite many different genres or whatever, it's just really easy to be able to see from a character. Like, if you see a character that is large and stocky and bloodied and is carrying this massive spiked mace, probably a bad guy. Meanwhile, if you see this cute little round cherub-faced kid with blonde flippy hair carrying this almost toy-looking sword, gonna go fight the bad guy, you want to root him on. Like, you're cheering for him. You're rooting for him to win. But yeah, so it's really useful to be able to manipulate people in a way that you can basically, without even having to introduce a character, just showing their character art. If a character art is strong enough that somebody can recognize what type of a character they are, you're doing a good job. One example that I always think of is Avalon Code. If you think of Valdo from Avalon Code, he's not very nice looking. He looks like he's standing like this. He's just like looking across to you, and he doesn't look interested. He looks disengaged. He's facing away from you. He's glaring at you from the corner of his eye. His outfit is all torn up. Meanwhile, you look at the protagonists, both male and female, and they're standing straight, they're standing tall, they're looking at you, they look very warm and inviting. They have these young, rounded faces. It's someone that you want to go and associate with yourself with. You want to engage with this character. Symbolism is just a powerful tool to infer certain character traits without even having to have them open their mouths in general. It's not restricted only to video games. This goes back for centuries, for millennia even. When you look at folktales, there's the story of there was 1,000 birds in this Persian folktale that see a single phoenix feather falling from the sky, and they see it, and it's so filled with light and warmth from the fire of it that they get inspired to go pursue this bird that they're sure would, since it's so full of this warmth, must be able to cure all their worldly problems of hunger and famine. And they go through these 7 trials trying to find this phoenix, and in the end, only 30 of them remain, and they see that in the end, even though they haven't found the phoenix, 30 represents the end of a cycle. It's 30 days in a month, 30 birds left. They found out that all that really mattered was what was within them. That was what they were looking for. They have within them the ability to solve all their problems. Look at how far they could persevere. And that's the symbolism behind the feather. It's a feather of light. Like Jess said, it's orange and yellow and red. It's warm and inviting, and it's something that you want to pursue. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, believed that archetypes are models of people, behaviors, or personalities, and these are things that are almost like tropes. You can see them, you can recognize them pretty easily, and you can expect a character to behave a certain way if they look like they fit a certain archetype. So there's 3 parts of the archetype system. According to Jung, the ego represents the conscious mind, while the personal unconscious contains memories, including those that have been suppressed. The collective unconscious is a unique component, and that Jung believes that this part of the psyche served as a form of psychological inheritance. So this is kind of used to explain why all humans, no matter what culture you come from, what sex you are, how old you are, how young you are, what you've been exposed to, we really have a lot of common fears. Some of the most common fears across humanity are the dark, and bugs, and snakes, and just the unknown. If something blocks your ability to see it, it's frightful, it's scary, you cannot recognize it. And it shares in archetypes. So for instance, with the snake, the serpent, this is something that shows up time and time again. You look at the Bible, you look at the Jungle Book, it's always this serpent creature tempting someone to going down a path that's not good for them. So we associate it with these things, we associate it with negativity. All the most powerful ideas in history go back to archetypes. Jung explains in his book, The Structure of the Psyche. This is particularly true of religious ideas, but the central concepts of science, philosophy, and ethics are no exception. In their present form, they are variants of archetypical ideas, created by consciously applying and adapting these ideas to reality. For it is the function of consciousness not only to recognize and assimilate the external world through the gateway of the senses, but to translate the visible reality of the world around us. So Jung he identifies 4 major archetypes, but also believes that there is no limit to the number that exists. And they all tie in with how we recognize video game characters, and it has a lot to do with why a character designer would choose to create their characters to look like this. So there's the self, the shadow, the animus, and the persona. The self is an archetype that represents the unification of the unconsciousness and consciousness consciousness of an individual. The creation of the self occurs through a process known as individuation, in which the various aspects of personality are integrated. Jung often presented the self as, just get this, a circle, a square,
I'm still on the circle.
or a mandala.
Also still a circle.
So of course, when I think of these, I think Mario's big round nose and his floppy hat, it's rounded. Or obviously Kirby, because he's just a circle. And he's pink, it's a warm, inviting color, it's cute. The shadow is an archetype that consists of the sex and life instincts, so these are generally things that you suppress. And as you can imagine, the shadow is usually linked more with negativity and villainous characters. It might appear in, Jung argued that it might appear in different forms in dreams, and some of those forms are a snake, like was mentioned earlier, a monster, a demon, a dragon, some other dark, wild, or exotic figure. Bowser. Bowser looks like a dragon. In this image, he's even breathing fire. It's very dinosaur-like, but also like a dragon. But yeah, the anima is a feminine image in the masculine psyche, and the animus is a male image in the female psyche. So it basically just represents unity. And for this example, I actually used Tetra and Zelda in Wind Waker, and despite them both being female, Tetra is this more. She leans more towards the stereotypically masculine, and she's more adventurous and bombastic until she gets revealed, spoilers by the way, as to be Zelda. And once she becomes Zelda, she suddenly takes on a role not as an adventurer or as a bandit, but as this passive, captive female character. And it's really in stark contrast. She seems like a completely different character. The persona is how we present ourselves to the world. The word persona is derived from a Latin word that literally just means mask, and it's not to say that it's a literal mask, but it just shows how you present yourself to different people in different situations. For this example, boom, out of nowhere, gonna use the game Persona for Persona. Persona 4 especially, the game is all about this idea. Taken from Persona 4's PS2 opening, we are all trapped in a maze of relationships. Life goes on with or without you. I swim in the sea of the unconscious. I search for your heart, pursuing my true self. Sounds like Carl Jung just jumped out of psychoanalysis and into a video game and was like, hey, check this out. But yeah, it's all about the game punishing you for not being able to accept your true self and for not being willing to allow others to see your true self. And it's all about accepting who you really are. And it's something that's just... it's something that's just visited in the game, and it's touched upon in a lot of other games, albeit not in such an obvious way, because this game is literally called Persona. But yeah, and aside from that, just postures and how a character carries themselves psychologically imprints on you too. So for instance, if I'm like sitting with my arms crossed and my legs crossed and I'm all quiet, you think of me as timid. Meanwhile, if I'm all bombastic, I'm just... there she goes. See? She can't even handle it. I'm more heroic, like I'm more out there. I'm more loud. So if you look at these images of Emerin and Gangrel from Fire Emblem, look at Emerin. She's all nice and standing straight and tall, inviting, coming towards you, all in pastels, very light, very almost heavenly. And then you see Gangrel, who's like... he looks like he's about to break it down. He looks like he's in the middle of a cackle, casting like his eye over his shoulder to like smirk at you. He's so bad even his sword isn't straight. It's all like all different kinds of crooked. But yeah, it's a lot of different things in psychoanalysis that go into making a character, and it makes it easier for a player to be able to identify what a character is and what kind of role they play without even being introduced to the character yet, aside from seeing them visually. But since this has a lot to do with visuals and the narrative aspects of these kinds of things, I'm going to kick it off to Erin, who's in the know about this stuff.
So cool, I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever heard of the Bush Wobbler's tale?
No, I haven't.
No, it sounds like a bird.
Yeah. It is.
It's a
Spoiler.
Oh.
So, it's basically about this attractive woman who invites a man into her home, but when the man looks upon a series of, forbidden rooms, she turns into a bird and flies away in sadness.
Oh. So she is a bird.
Yeah. And basically the reason why I mentioned this tale is because it has its influence in various anime, According to psychologist Kawai Heyo, he says it's a Japanese cultural paradigm that a woman must disappear in order for sorrow to complete the sense of beauty. So basically, women in Japanese literature or in anime, they reach their full sense of beauty when they're unattainable, when they disappear.
You're so beautiful.
So, author Napier, in her book Anime from Akira to Howl's Moving Castle, she labels this as the disappearing shoujo. So where does this fit to anime? I mean, video games, they aren't necessarily anime, but Nintendo is stationed in Japan, so we can assume that it's of a similar vein. So, two prime examples are Princess Zelda and Princess Peach. I mean, both are kidnapped at the beginning of the game. Every time.
She's up there. Princess Peach is there. We saved her. She's not in the castle. She's in this castle.
But anyway, they both become figures that vanish. They become objects of desire. They leave an impression on the player. They're suddenly figures that you need to fight for, figures that you need to obtain. They're these beautiful characters that you want to see again. Another example would be Samus from Super Metroid. Her suit covers up her feminine figure.
Not here.
So basically you don't know that she's a woman. Not that there's anything sorrowful about this design, but I felt like it was worth mentioning because if the player does well at the end of the game, you see her without her suit, so it's like a female presence is almost not there and then reappears at the end of the game. Another, I think, great example of the disappearing shoujo is actually from a game that's not Nintendo. It's from Dead Space, which there's a spoiler warning here, so cover your ears if you don't want to be spoiled for the first 3 games. The only 3 games. It's a trilogy. So basically, Isaac Clarke's love life is basically the disappearing shoujo. In the first game, he's searching for his girlfriend Nicole, only to find out that she's unattainable. She's been dead this entire time. Sadly. And then in the sequel, he hallucinates her, seeing disturbing imagery of her appearing and disappearing before the player's eyes.
How sad I am.
And in the third game, it opens up with his second girlfriend, Ellie, absent. She left him.
Oh, it's too bad.
Oh yeah, he's got a bad love life, man. But anyway, these plotlines, they invoke feelings of tragedy and loss, something considered beautiful in Japanese culture. So this raises a question. Obviously, Dead Space is not a Japanese-made game. In fact, Visceral, the company that made them, is stationed in California, not in Japan. So can we really apply the laws of anime to Dead Space? I mean, I would argue so because despite being from different cultures, it's actually very common for similar plotlines to appear all over the world. Just as Nadine has mentioned, oral tradition of folk tales, adventure, wealth, marriage can be found everywhere. Sometimes you can actually find almost the same exact story in 2 different cultures. Like, for example, we all know the story of Cinderella, right? We all know the Grimm story. I've heard of it. Maybe. But anyway, did you know that there's actually a Chinese version of the story called Yeishen, and it was told just as early as 850 AD. Wow. And basically, it has the same exact story. It has the father passes away, has stepmother who uses her. She goes to a party next to a godmother figure. She leaves a shoe. King finds the shoe. She fits the shoe, and then they get married.
Exact same story.
It's the exact same story, exactly. Told by 2 cultures who, at the time, like, didn't really have any means of communication. Anyway, this brings up another point of reoccurring themes in literature. Character archetypes. Character archetypes are basically just the same type of persona that reappears in multiple different tales. So, the most common types of character archetypes, oh my gosh, are the hero, the magician, the sage, the ruler, the innocent, the everyman, the caregiver, the lover, the jester, the outlaw / rebel, the explorer, and the creator. So let's start with the most obvious type. We all know the hero.
Woo!
You know, he or she is the brave figure that goes up against evil, and the brave warrior of sorts. The most obvious example would be Link.
Woo! Link!
And
Yeah,
you,
he's alright.
He's the best.
He's okay. Or obviously, you know, Link is the avatar that the player plays as. You play as a hero who saves the day. But it's a little more complicated than that. Actually, depending on the story, the hero archetype will actually overlap with other archetypes. Like, for example, let's take a look back at Link from the Zelda series. He's a normal guy. You know, he's a normal alien. The games usually open up with Link taking a nap somewhere, and then somebody nudges him to wake up and do his
Get out of
chores.
here!
Hey,
Listen.
Yeah, exactly. He's not like a king or a prince or someone of a high social standing. You know, he's usually just like a farm kid or just some kid on some island somewhere. So in that sense, Link already overlaps from hero to everyman. He's also typically an orphan, which is another trait of the everyman. Another thing that you can overlink Link with is the caregiver. You know, all those tasks that Link has to do for side characters. Deliver this milk, get this, get that.
Deliver this potion before it expires.
Yeah.
5 pigs.
Yeah.
So basically that shows that Link is a caregiver and he wants to help people even if they're strangers. So that's already 3 archetypes that he overlaps with. Finally, there's the last thing that he overlaps with, which is the most obvious, the explorer. Link likes to adventure a lot. He starts out as the everyman, but usually at the end of the tale, he is usually this restless spirit that can't sit still. That's why many games actually end with Link riding off somewhere. It usually ends with a character, usually a female character, kind of looking off in the distance. At the end of Spirit Tracks, you see Princess Zelda looking out the window, and like, oh, I wonder where he is. And at the end of Twilight Princess, you see Shout to Friends looking away, wondering where he is. At the end of Wind Waker, you see his sister Arrow looking out to the distance sadly as he sails off. But basically, so Link, that's another thing that Link connects into. So that's one version of the hero. Another version, what about the characters of GTA or Assassin's Creed? They're certainly a different type. I would argue that these types actually overlap with the rebel, someone who breaks order to accomplish their goals. Any law they will just go against. Destruction and everything.
Rebel.
Chaotic, neutral.
Yeah.
So, now I'm gonna get into more of the female characters. Now, typically, female characters tend to go into the lover category. Many of them are in relation to a male character either being their sister or being a love interest. But like the hero type, even if they're love interests, they also overlap into other archetypes. For example, Princess Zelda and Princess Peach. Yes, they're both love interests, but they're also both rulers. They both are monarchs of their kingdom. They want to establish peace and order and prosperity.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Link is getting her real bad.
Actually, specifically Princess Zelda, she also, in addition to being a lover and a ruler, you could say that she's also a sage, aside from the obvious sages in Ocarina of Time. Because she's an intellectual. She likes to see the world through knowledge. Even in Ocarina of Time, she informs Link of the 3 goddesses forming the universe. But here's a good example. In one Zelda game, A Link Between Worlds, these are more spoilers, so yeah, other years. Zelda's mega counterpart, Princess Hilda, tries to steal the Triforce away from Link because she needs a Triforce to save her kingdom. And I thought this was really interesting because Princess Hilda is an example of a character who's female, but she's not a love interest. She's solely a ruler figure. She just wants to create peace and establish order. So I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. So other 2 examples of archetypes are the innocent and the jester, which I found that these types tend to be more supporting characters. I found the 2 examples of the innocent would be, say, Link's sister Arrow, or the children from Twilight Princess. These types of characters, they don't want any harm to come onto people, but they usually don't have the strength to fight themselves, so they're always urging Link to do the work. Arrow, go save that girl in the forest, she's in trouble. The children, go help the Gorons. And as far as the jester, this person I wouldn't really find aiding you in battle because they just want to live life to the fullest. They're the comic relief character, they want to kick back. They want to have fun. I found that a good example of the jester types would be Tetra's Pirate Crew. They're comic relief. On Wimple Island, they don't want to go out and bomb and get treasure. They just want to stay and eat their fill and sleep the night.
Sounds like a good game.
Yeah. Anyway, to end it, I want to make a daring assumption with the last 2. The creator and the magician. I want to argue that the creator archetype would be the player for the video game, and the magician would be the game designer.
Oh yes. How bold.
Because the creator is someone who imposes his own artistic input on a situation. So if what I'm saying is true and the player is a creator, he or she uses their own sense of creativity to make certain decisions and construct their own path in the game's story arc. So basically, as Nadine has said earlier, no game is like the other. They all make their own path and make their decisions. decisions. Sometimes game endings are different depending on the player's decision making. So in that sense, they're creating their own destiny. As far as the magician, another term for the magician archetype is inventor or visionary, which would make sense because the game designer would be creating or envisioning this world, this platform for gamers to engage in. They're constructing this world. So in many ways, a game developer acts like a magician, inventing worlds and different realities. And
That was great.
Daring assumption.
Yeah. How bold of you.
I'm just a rebel, man.
Clearly.
Anyways, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed us just chatting with you about what we think about character design and the importance of psychology and color and shape and their literary backgrounds. Now, while you watch these credits, we're going to talk to you about something that I like to call the belts versus sash theory.
It's a doozy.
The belts versus sash theory basically boils down to belts are heroic and sashes are villainous.
Always gesturing at me with the villains.
Yeah.
Oh god, back at it again with a brother.
So here we're just going to basically talk about some examples for a fun time while you watch all of our references scroll down the screen. The very first one that I think of, obviously, is Link and Ganondorf.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
sash is ridiculous.
he's like
My
the king
God.
of sash. Not to be confused with the king of
I
sash.
mean, there's also Baron from Fire Emblem, who has just a ridiculous sash, and then Crumb from the other Fire Emblem game that just has like 4 different belts on his chest alone.
Yeah, true. Did I say the one you were gonna say?
Yeah.
Link and Ganondorf? Of
Yeah.
course I did.
That's like a really big one.
You can also think of things like cultural differences, like in the Fire Emblem thing. Hoshido?
Yeah,
Hoshido's
Hoshido's
the side that,
based
like-
on
go ahead.
Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And Nor is more European.
Yeah,
Even
so
though Nor
there's,
still has a bunch of sashes.
so there's not really like a good or an evil because like they could both be either one depending on what you're playing, but like the Japanese culturally one, they're all wearing sashes because they all have obis. And then we've also decided that anyone in the desert is an exception because they all have sashes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so if it's a cultural phenomenon where you would expect people there to wear a sash, or if it's not modern times, you can generally expect a villain in modern times to wear a belt to hold their pants up.
Yeah.
And if you're in like the Sahara, nobody's gonna yell at you for wearing a sash.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously, guys, look at your favorite heroes. Look for a buckle. I mean, think about Final Fantasy.
Oh my god,
I
the
mean-
amount of belts.
The amount of belts. It doesn't have to be like a belt. It can be like this kind of belt or like a buckle somewhere.
Yeah, just
And I swear to goodness, the villain will always wear some kind of like sash or ridiculous scarf sash or like cape side sash every time.
It applies to characters that are ambiguous too. I mean, look
Yeah.
at Cole from Dragon Age. He's wearing like a belt and a sash thing, and he can go either way.
Yep. And that happens too. Sometimes they'll be wearing both and they'll start off as good and then end up as bad. And it's like a trigger in your brain that you can be like, hold on, maybe don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
So that's belt versus sash theory. It's a lot of fun. You should research it on your own with your own characters and take a look. Anyways, I'm Jessica.
I'm Nadine.
I'm Aaron.
And
Hey.
that was fun.
It was.
Bye.
Bye.